after a specially extended Channel 4 News with Alex Thompson in London and Jon Snow in Amman.
Live from Jordan tonight, from the Roman amphitheatre in the heart of the capital of Amman, we debate Iraq, the next 5 years. Built in the 2nd century AD, when Iraqi civilization was already more than 5,000 years old, down the centuries this has been the scene of fights, dramas and debate. Tonight, in the midst of war in Iraq, 5 years on from the US-led invasion, we debate the next 5 years. We are perhaps 100 miles from the Iraqi border, a refuge for 1 million refugees, but a place too where Iraqis meet to try to resolve how to bring their ravaged country from war to peace. Tonight, we are joined by a panel drawn from the region and by some who have served or still serve the occupying power, and by an audience of Iraqis of all persuasions. Our themes tonight: security, the oil and the people.
That was a good one.
From Iraq itself, the northern city of Mosul, where the US-led battle to contain the insurgents still rages, can lasting security ever return? From the Kurdish region, with an exclusive report tonight from one of the Western companies now drilling for Iraqi oil, but who will end up controlling it? And Iraq's other most precious natural resource, its people. Can the flight of Iraq's achieving middle classes ever be reversed to help rebuild the country? Welcome back to Jordan's Roman amphitheatre here in Amman, where in this specially extended live edition of Channel 4 News, we debate Iraq's future on this, the 5th anniversary of the start of the war. Our panel is drawn from across the region, and we shall be joined by people who have either served or still serve the occupying powers. We're here amid George Bush's claim that a strategic victory in the war on terror is imminent, that in short, the military surge in Iraq has worked. But at the same time, the monthly death toll in Iraq has begun to climb again, and tonight US forces continue battling the insurgency in the northern city of Mosul. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Nick Payton-Walsh and cameraman Matt Jasper have been embedded with the 3rd Armoured Cavalry Regiment during military operations the Americans are calling the last stand against al-Qaeda in Iraq.
16 white 1.
Dusk, and the deadly routine begins. This is the front line in Iraq. But it's not intense street fighting. It's a nightmarish hunt by these engineers for roadside bombs hidden along the roads of Iraq's most hostile city.
It's a white burlap sack. Something in it. Can't tell if it's garbage or if it's an IED.
An IED, or improvised explosive device. The bag's new and tied shut, so the truck's arm probes it.
If anything, it's a pressure plate over.
That's exactly what it is. 2 metal panels around a charge that detonates when something heavy, like a tank, rolls over it. They call in the bomb squad, and their robot, called Johnny 5.
We nicknamed it that because of the movie Short Circuit.
It lays a charge on the device, one of 10 they find each day in Mosul.
Find a hole. That was a good one.
Later that night, an American helicopter shoots dead 2 men thought to have planted these bombs.
For exceptionally valorous achievement during Operation Iraqi Freedom against hostile forces, the President of the United States of America...
Honour here for injuries sustained, some while inside an armoured vehicle, in a deadly game of hide-and-seek amid Mosul's rubble and litter.
Had an IED go off underneath my truck, knocked me out, separated my shoulder. 6 hours later, after the mission, I finally went back in and I went to the cache. And then I finally got checked out and they found out the extent of my injuries.
Valour that's portrayed in Washington as part of the fight against al-Qaeda. The war in its 6th year now, this old foe has become the new focus in Mosul, even though officers here concede unemployment might be a worse enemy.
First and foremost, we would get rid of unemployment. We see unemployment as the heart of the insurgency here in Nineveh province. Once you remove unemployment, and the local populace have a future. They have security. They have basic needs. Al-Qaeda will no longer have a home here in Nineveh. It is a longer grind, but the enemy will not stand up to us. I think American forces will be here as long as necessary. I really can't tell how long that's going to be, but as long as we can provide assistance to the Iraqi security forces in order to make them better, to assist them in conducting their own security in the area, we'll be here until that mission's complete.
It's a slow process, a berm. This dirt wall sounds like a medieval tactic, but it's thought to have helped reduce violence in a nearby city 2 years ago, so they're trying it here.
The aim is to encircle the city with this dirt wall, forcing all cars through 11 checkpoints dotted around it where they can be searched. But that hasn't stopped some people from simply walking over the wall and passing weaponry across it.
And every week the locals keep breaching it, so every week they have to rebuild it in about 3 places in the small section that we saw. The engineers are wary of sniper fire, shutting the door quickly after they've given sweets to these children. With all their new counterinsurgency tricks, US commanders here have given themselves until summer to turn Mosul around. This sole superpower caught in a climate of fear and violence, trying to win hearts and minds. Nick Payton-Walsh, Channel 4 News, Mosul.
So now to our guests and our audience. I want to start with you, Dr. Mehdi Hafed. You are a serving MP in the Iraqi Parliament. You were the Minister for Planning. Do you see the surge, insecure that may be in Mosul, as having provided enough political space of security for something now to develop in Iraq?
You see, I think the problem is still there, despite all the achievements on the security front. I think that the security situation is still shaky. And I understand that the surge strategy has made some progress, but I think that the main problem is with the government. Because unless there is a real unity among the security forces belonging to the government, it is difficult to expect a big success in this area.
And this is particularly because the government is very fractured. I mean, there are people who've pulled out of the government. It's not a really holistic representation of what happened in the election.
You see, I think that this will be, again, another problem. That's why I feel that Iraq now is on crossroad. There might be some even some changes in the whole political spectrum.
Which might require new elections?
I think that there will be some changes. This is my expectation of the future.
Let me hold you there. Let's go to Baghdad, to the Green Zone, to Ambassador Charles Rees, who is the Ambassador for Economic Transition, or the coordinator of economic transition. Ambassador, I'm sure you will feel that the surge has produced enough political space for there to be a greater development. But you've just heard here Mehdi Hafed say that he thinks there'll have to be pretty profound changes in the government before much happens.
Well, all societies have changes in government over time, and there likely will be ones here as well. But what the surge has accomplished is by bringing down the level of violence, it has allowed the economy to grow, and that's producing those jobs that the soldier up in Mosul was talking about. We certainly agree here that jobs and sustainable economic growth are part of the solution to make this economy, this country, sustainable over the long term.
Is that an artificial growth that you've had to boost with the enormous amount of money that you've put into Iraq, or are you really seeing green shoots of natural Iraqi economic development?
Well, the American taxpayers have been very generous over the last 5 years in helping to rebuild Iraq, an Iraq that was damaged by decades of state-planned economies and sanctions and all the other problems that came with Saddam's regime. But now the Iraqis, with their good oil export revenues, are taking over the responsibility. In the last year, the Iraqis, through their own capital budget, funded from oil sales, have spent over 3 times more than we have on reconstruction, and they will do more as we go on to the future.
I'm going to come to oil in just a moment, but just one last brief word just for the moment. Would you see the security produced by the surge, or the relative security, as demanding still a pretty big American military presence to sustain it?
Well, I'm in charge of economics here. Obviously, what I would focus on is the security successes have allowed the economy to grow and to prosper. We're seeing markets where there weren't markets before. We're seeing trade where there wasn't trade before. And we're starting to see the basis of investment, which the gains are fragile, reversible, but we think that we are really starting to see an economic reflection of the success of the security surge.
Right, I'll come back to you soon, Ambassador, but for the moment, thank you.